Okay, for the purpose of the Tree of Liberty, the purpose of that, one thing about that is, I did not ask for historical content, but you still have to know some historical content. Who wrote it? Who wrote the Tree of Liberty?
Jefferson.
Jefferson. What other big thing did he write? So you got to get the Declaration of Independence. Remember his thinking on that. The thinking on the Declaration of Independence. What big event happened right before he wrote this? He was in Paris, and he wrote it. Yeah, Shays' Rebellion. And what was being done in Philadelphia at that time? We talked about this after Shays' Rebellion. Independence Hall. That Constitutional Convention. That stuff is going on. He's not sure about the Constitutional Convention. But generally, what are his feelings towards Shays' Rebellion? Yeah. Because the people believed what? Remember the Declaration of Independence? They believed what was going on. The people thought what was happening to them.
Their rights were infringed.
Exactly. What is that called? Your rights are infringed. You have the duty to change the government. What is that called?
Vigilant.
Vigilant. You have to be vigilant, yes. What is it called? Government are created. Very good. The social contract. And so that is the essence of it. He's basically writing that this is, yeah, it's good. The social contract applies, and he's worried that the Constitution might be too strong and take that right away. That's basically the purpose of it. So if you have something about a little bit of its little background, talk about the purpose, that's it. And we have to know a little bit of historical context. And then I will read the Madison one, but we have to do something first, even though it's only 4 of us. You guys get this wonderful thing. It's called Essay Writing Tips. We're going to talk a little bit about writing an essay. And the thing about essays, they call them, on the AP exam, you have 2 essays, full essays to write. And then those short answers we talked about earlier, we'll do more of those. But the essay, excuse me, one is called a DBQ, which you have to use. It's the same basic format, but your evidence to prove your point has to also consist of documents. That's why we do that HAP stuff. And then the other essay is just a regular full essay. They call a long essay question now, or LEQ. Yeah, whatever. They used to call them FRQs. Remember, that's what you had last year. So turn this over. This is new for this year. It is the word I hate, rubric. But it's the guidelines for the AP exam. And if you look at the bottom, it's a 6-point scale. So whoever reads it, these are AP teachers. I can do it if I wanted to. If I wanted to sit in a hotel room and read lots of essays. I can do this. But what they do is they check this off, or they give you points based on these things you have to have. And if you look at the first 3, though, it's the thesis. And that's what we're going to talk about today, thesis statements. I know you've done them, but there's certain things we have to do in this class. And it doesn't hurt to practice anyways. If it's a 6-point scale, 1 point for having a thesis that addresses the question. You can have the thesis that addresses the question and then like gibberish or draw a picture of a turtle or something. And you'll still get 1 point. Then, the next 2, you need in your thesis statement, it answers the question, and then you get evidence. Those are the facts, your knowledge that you bring in. That's 1 point. You get that, that's 2. That's 1/3 of your grade. The next one, for the rest of the essay, you have evidence in your essay that relates to the thesis. So you don't go on a tangent. Your thesis is about the causes of the American Revolution, and you start writing about how you like dogs. That you won't get that point. But as long as everything leads back to it. So we haven't really got to the meat of the essay, but even necessarily what you write, it's just that if you have that. So it's really thesis heavy. You get that, you get half your grade. That's why the thesis statement is the most important. It was only 1 point last year. Now, up to 3. That's pretty big. And so you have evidence and link it back to the thesis. You have a solved thesis answer the question, boom, half your grade. And then what they do is, for 1 or 2 points, they have those thinking skills. The question is going to be something on one of these things. You see the next 4? That's why I wanted you to know the terms. Continuity change, causation, periodization, and comparison. So basically what happened in that era, cause and effect is causation, comparison, one thing related to another, or continuity and change. I say how one thing that might have happened in this era, how does it relate to this era? But the thing is, the big thing is, write a good essay. Know what the terms are. Know basically what it means, but still just write a good essay. Give whatever it says, like for comparison. You have the similarities and differences, and then you give real reason, evaluate it, analyze it, and then you got 2 points. And then lastly, synthesis. Have that connection. Actually, there's a couple you can see, either it's historical period or another theme like geography or something else. Historical period is the best one for this. And that's why I always mention that. Related to an historical era. It can't be part of, they grade it separately, but that's 6 points right there. That's how they grade it. But here's the big thing. For the AP exam, you still have to have a good essay. You have to have facts. You have to have information. You have to be able to write it or have an argument where you relate that information to your thesis statement, to your argument. This is not creative writing. I'm not going to grade you on your grammar. I'm going to grade you on what you know. So get as much information and show that you can analyze it. Analyze, all that means is relate it to the rest of your essay, relate it to your thesis statement. I repeat, it's a test. This is not just a writing assignment to write. It's not, a journal. I like pizza. Right? So don't forget that. Turn it over. These are the essay writing tips I give. I'll talk a little bit more about them, but really basic. I say read the question 3 times on top. Read it 3 times. Make sure you answer it. And then the next thing we'll talk a little more about is called a brainstorm list, or more and more they're calling it a memory dump. And the memory dump is simply this, or the brainstorm. Get as much facts and information down as you can. The reason you do that is because it's easy to forget stuff. It's really easy, especially once you start writing. Because everybody has the exact same thought process once they put that pen to paper and start writing the essay. It's to get done in the time allotted, right? So you're just trying to get done, so it's really easy to forget stuff. You get your information down, it stimulates thought. I'll talk about thesis in just a second, then plan your essay, make a simple outline. I'll talk a little bit more about ways to do that. I'll talk about introduction, supporting paragraphs, and concluding paragraphs. There's a few hints at the bottom. They're all pretty basic, but the one thing is write in the third person. Write in the third person, no first person personal pronouns. Don't write things like I think, or don't write the United States as we did, write the United States. Or it's not I think, write it as fact. I think the Revolutionary War started because they were mean. No, the Revolutionary War started because of, okay. But now, look at the thesis statement. I put down the basic elements of it. I'm putting down the terms that I'm going to use, and I also get the little formula that they use now. Please, on your own, read that. So you got to turn that over. And read the thesis statement. I'll give you a couple minutes and then we'll talk about it. We're broadcasting this, so this ought to be really interesting broadcast. Okay, the thing is about that, I know it gives us X and the Y, and A, B, C, and all that. That's just terms to try to identify parts of it. And the big thing is, your thesis statement basically has two parts. That first part is where you're basically showing how you answer the question. You should given that basic idea is this is the main point of the essay, and this is my position. It gives your position. And then the next part is literally kind of a blueprint where it shows you what the paragraphs will be. And so when you have that X, Y, because of A, B, C, the X is the main part of the question. The part of the question you have to address is the X. So if I ask you a question, what is the best food? What's the X? Best food. Best food is the X. Now, what is your position? What is your position on food? That is the Y. What's the best food? Spaghetti? You don't like food? Spaghetti too? Pizza? Tiffany? Huh? Okay, grasshoppers. So grasshoppers are the best food, right? No, we can do any number. We got pizza, we could have spaghetti. Since it's 2 out of 4 for spaghetti, pizza's outvoted. No stir fry. No stir fry. Stir fried pizza. That could be yummy. You just throw a dough. Not even dough, just the flour and the butter. The best food is spaghetti. X, best food. Y, spaghetti. That's your position. That is your position on the question. And if this was a one-paragraph essay, that's all you would need. That's it. The best food is spaghetti. You write a paragraph about spaghetti. But now, this is going to be a 4, 5, or 6 paragraph essay. It depends on the question is worded. So now, the whole essay is going to be about spaghetti. But then the 3 paragraphs, you need a blueprint to say, what about spaghetti makes it the best? So for the first paragraph, you'd have, the best food is spaghetti because, what's the first main point? Spaghetti is what? Delicious. Okay, tastes good. That's one. Tastes good. Your first paragraph then would be about good taste. Next.
It's got a good texture.
Is that okay for everybody? Texture? Can you write a paragraph about texture? Yeah. Yeah. I could. All right, what the heck? Texture. C, cats like it. Sound good? Cats love spaghetti. Everyone knows that, right? So those are the 3 main, you know what food is good if cats like it. Now don't write this and all of a sudden say, but dogs don't. No, it's about cats. Cats and spaghetti. So that is your paragraphs. That's the A, B, and C. So what you've done is, I've given my position on the question. And now I'm telling you, heck, I'm telling myself, who's writing it, where I'm going. So the first paragraph, it's all about spaghetti. That's everything. It's all about the spaghetti, people. But the first part, I go through the taste. And in the taste, I talk about, what about the taste? I give examples of it. I give evidence, relating it back to taste. That relates it to the thesis statement. Therefore, I have just done, if you do that, I got 1 point for clear thesis. I got 1 point for supporting this with evidence. And since I'm relating it all back to the thesis statement, 2. That gives me 3 total points. Wow, I just half passed my test. I could go home. That's what you need. So B, texture. Same deal, C, cats. So you have this whole thing there. And yesterday I said it's kind of like a short ID. That's essentially what you're doing. A short ID on taste. You're explaining what and why about it. You give evidence. So instead of, 4-sentence one like a short ID, you give 2 or 3 bits of evidence. You relate it to the thesis statement. And then the last sentence would be some kind of transition to the next one. The taste is very good, but also the texture of spaghetti makes it taste like pizza. Okay, that would be bad. But the texture is good, and the texture is pleasing to eat. So yeah. But we could have nutrition, energy, right? All those things. Looks good. It's Italian. I don't know if that would work, but why not? The one I would put down is the variety of sauces. Because spaghetti, you might just, okay, just have the noodles. So take one off your thesis. And that's it. That is a thesis statement. So you need the position and then this. As I understand it in your English classes, you basically just have the main point and this, right? That's what other students have said. We need that position. That gives us a strong thesis. Now, you want to put more than just because of taste, texture, and cats like it. You need something about, you know, something, a little bit more information about why it tastes good in the thesis statement. Like it's a little bit more evidence. So let's look at a couple examples really quickly. A couple examples of thesis statements. I'll give you a very basic question. And the question is always going to be something that's broad, especially on the AP exam, but also, give me one sec. We need a font. How about 200? There we go. So there's a question. Oh, I should have made that bigger too. Analyze the causes of the American Civil War. Now, clearly we have not gotten there. So you can't, you're not going to be able to do, or you have a limited amount of things you could do on your own right now. But I give low quality thesis, medium, and better. That first thesis statement is horrible. You're going back to third grade. The second one, nothing specific. The third one, okay, it's medium. But what's it missing? The medium quality thesis. X and Y. It's got the X in Civil War.
It doesn't have the Y.
Yes. It's not horrible, but it might not get you 3 points. I would put lines over and say, where's the Y or something. And then the next one, no, it's simple. It's not that complex, but simple does not mean bad. That's a good thesis statement. That's good. And you notice it can be 1, 2, 3 sentences. It doesn't have to be one sentence. You don't want to get too worried. And so looking at the simple but high quality thesis statement, what's the why?
Ideological disagreement.
Yes. The position is the Civil War were fundamental ideological disagreements, so differences in views. Then what's the first paragraph going to be about?
Federal government.
And so you have a topic sentence about the federal government, and then everything relates back to that. How difference in view of that, then industrialization, the spread of territories. Let me give you another question. The Compromise of 1850 saved the Union by postponing the Civil War for a decade. Now, if you see this, what you got to do in your thesis statement is show your evaluation of that statement. So you're either going to support it by saying, I agree, and that's what your position is. I refute it. I disagree with that. Or I agree with part, disagree with part. Part of it's true, but part of it's not true. The term they use for that is, don't ask why, but they call it modifying it, where you agree with part, disagree with part. So I gave you 2 thesis statements. The X and the Y, ABC, very traditional. I give a little bit more information. My why is that I support it. I support the statement. You see the 3 paragraphs. What's the first paragraph going to be about? First paragraph of the body, I'm sorry. Exactly. So we talk about the views of the country. What's the second paragraph going to be about?
Industrial growth.
Third paragraph. Yeah, the creation of the Republican Party, where I can then get to, Lincoln was a Republican. Republican Party then is a lot different than Republican Party today, but just the name is there. Well, let's say I want, and if you refute it, you disagree with it, you'd have the same basic format. The Compromise of 1850, but you would say your why would be did not save the Union. There's other things. And this one is hedging the bets. I don't know why I've got this bad habit of having the paragraph markers. I want to know how many spaces. So now everything I type, I have to have those marks. I don't even notice they're there. Here, I agree with some, but I modified it. And so instead of having A, B, and C at the end, I start with a kind of a counter fact, something I disagree with. So my first paragraph of the body will show that it didn't prevent war. I mean, the war came and we nearly lost the Union. But then I come back to saying, but, and then show industrial growth, creation of a new political party. That's the way you can do comparison. This was this, but this. So my first paragraph would be about, no, war came. The war was horrible and the North nearly lost. Second paragraph, industrial growth. Third paragraph, Republican growth. Wouldn't it be awesome if I had a question for you guys to do right now? There you go. Write me a thesis statement. Now, you don't have to use the despite. I'll talk more about, I'll show you more of those later, but the big thing about that is, or big thing about this is, if you're not sure, just do the basic point of the question, position, X and Y, and then A, B, C. Or we do 3, 5 paragraphs is pretty standard, but you can do a 4 paragraph too. So quick, on a second, do it, you can do it on that sheet of paper, do it somewhere. We're not going to sound an assignment. I just want you to take a couple minutes right now, write a thesis statement down. Try to take a position on it. Go, go, go. Clock is running. What are you doing?
We're splitting.
You could have done this on a piece of scratch paper. Let's go. You should be half done.
I'm sorry. I'll finish it real quick, I promise. Do you want brainstorm this?
All I want is a thesis statement.
Okay.
You should be done in about 2 minutes. So you got a minute left. When you're done, quick, make sure you have a position, The whole essay will revolve around that position you take on the question and then the blueprint. Alrighty then, what do we got? So, we have British policy, direct, what's the X? Yeah, British policy and the American Revolution, so we gotta say that. And then, so that is what you have to address in the question. Take a position on that and give me a blueprint. So who would like to read theirs? There's only a few of us. Ready, Tiffany?
No. I really don't want to do it.
You really don't want to do it?
Yeah.
It's probably really good.
No.
How about we hear someone else's and then, yeah, I go over yours.
British policy led to the American Revolution because of such influences as mercantilism, the Coercive Acts, and the Parliament of 1763.
And what's the second one?
Coercive Acts.
Okay, that works. The only problem is this: mercantilism. Okay, that's the policy all through the whole thing, and that could have been actually a good position. The British policy of mercantilism led to it, but still, mercantilism that works because you took a position, say you agree with it. But the second one's the Coercive Acts. That's 1774.
Oh, it's,
Out of order.
yeah.
And so you could have something about British land policy, which I ain't gonna call this, then the Coercive
So
Acts.
just switch.
Yeah. Yeah, so you want to be kind of the order, but this thing led to this. So you have something that happened in, or 10 years before. Who has another one? Go, let's see, go ahead.
British policy directly led to the American Revolution because it forced colonists to supply their natural goods to Britain and made them buy the goods that they made from these and then impose taxes on the goods that they made.
Okay, that's good, but it's a little bit, it's pretty close to all examples of mercantilism. And so the problem with that would be, and I see where you're going, but you're just going to talk about the policy of mercantilism. So it might be good to have, maybe mercantilism, but something more specific to happen in the colonies. But that's the only other thing. But I see your organization in that. It's good organization, just maybe for the essay question, you need something more specific. Tiffany, you want to read it now?
British policy and take the American Revolution because they involved the sugar tax. They allowed invasion of the population and the slave trade.
Yeah, the slave trade, that probably wasn't a major cause. And so that'd be one like, that's not good. But the sugar line and the proclamation line, the only problem with the Sugar Act would be it's really narrow. Maybe you do mercantilist policies or something about that, or include it with other laws. And then the proclamation line came before the Sugar Act. But Zach, last one, let's hear it.
Said the British policy directly led to the American Revolution due to the Navigation Acts, the Tea Tax, and the Coercive Acts.
Okay, that works. It's really narrow. And so we might need a little bit more information about it. Oh, but one more thing, all of you did. So they're not bad, but almost all of you did one big problem. You basically just restated the statement. You have to evaluate it, but you have to rewrite it in some way in your own words. You can just reverse it. or just change it, but, well, 3, how do we heard about the statement? So the American Revolution the American Revolution was caused by the British policy of mercantilism, as something like that. So you can't just, you have to restate the sentence. Even if it asks you to evaluate the sentence, they don't want you to write the same sentence. So think about a way for you to say it. We will do more of these, but if you get that position and try to think about how you would relate them. And hopefully, since it would just happen, you can have in your head some ways writing out or write down. All right, hold on to this. Make sure you have this sheet with you. We'll talk more about it tomorrow or Wednesday. Tomorrow, Friday. And think about it in a way that whenever you pick for your blueprint, you have enough to write a full paragraph. A good paragraph with a lot of evidence. You can have examples of it. Don't forget, it's just basically putting a good paragraph, sounds like a short idea. All right, so where did we finish it here yesterday? Who wrote the Virginia Plan?
Madison.
And when Madison wrote that, they were at the Constitutional Convention. What big event led directly to the Constitutional Convention? Shays' Rebellion. And at this convention, not only did they want a strong central government, but they wanted no what? No what type of government? No democracy at all, or mobocracy. They wanted to meet, why did they meet in private, in secret?
So they would be influenced by outside sources.
And, that's good. What's the other one? They might be accused of what? Treason. And they thought it might get, it is technically treason. At Shays' Rebellion, the creditors, those who loaned it, how do we know they controlled the government of Massachusetts? Because what did they do? How do we know the creditors controlled the government of Massachusetts?
We kept deflation.
How do they keep deflation going? How do they keep deflation going?
The debt cycle.
What do you do to the money supply to get deflation? You don't print money. Exactly. You limit the amount of money in circulation. Now, I'm saying that if you didn't have that written down, you better get it written down, because that's the only way you're going to remember that. Because this is going to happen again and again and again. It deals with the money supply. It's not just some abstract single event in 1786. It goes right to this very day. It's more complex than just simply saying the amount of money in circulation, especially today. But that's the general idea. The more money in circulation, you have inflation. The less money, you have deflation. In really good economic times, you have inflationary pressures because people are spending more. Bad economic times, people hold on to their money, less money in circulation, you have deflation. This happens time after time. We have a modern economy. So you see it again in 1819, 1837, 1857, 1877, 1893, 1907, 1919, 1920. I keep going. This is not, or in 2008, 2009, 2010, and yes, it will happen again. So, the Virginia Plan. I think we got the most elements of it, didn't we? So, what kind of legislature is the Virginia Plan? The upper, or who chooses the lower house?
Voters.
And then who chooses the upper house?
Lower.
Who chooses the executive? So the whole idea is they want to create a wall between what?
The mob. And the elite.
Well, it's the mob and the elite, but specific in this context, the executive and the legislature, the government, and the people. The mob. You people are the mob. I kind of fear for my life every time I turn my back. Right? That you just storm the ramparts. So that's the Virginia plan. Both houses have to pass a law or pass a bill to get it to go to the president to sign before it becomes a law. It is very difficult to pass laws. What do you call if the president doesn't sign? If a bill gets to the president, it passes both House and the Senate, the president says, I'm not going to sign that. What is that called? You know the term. When a president does not want a law, begins with a V, it's a veto. That's a veto. All right. Now the New Jersey plan. All the small state suggestions coalesce around that. And they're worried about being dominated by the big states. So Robert Patterson would be the main pusher of this, even though a lot of people were involved in this. And this really did do what the articles said. The articles, the Confederation Congress just said improve it. And that's basically what they did. There would be an executive, there would be a court system, but the legislature would still be one house or unicameral, and the states would be equal. States are equal. Just like the Articles of Confederation. So it did strengthen the central government. The only real thing about these that both of them had in common, besides executive and court, but the big thing was the central government would be supreme. The states are not going to have as much power. The states will be subservient. The federal government is sovereign. They have the power. So the states will be able to do stuff, but the final arbiter will be the central government. Well, this is a big fight. And big states versus small states, well, there's more small states, but the big states have the population and the money. So the realization came that there had to be a compromise. And this is going to be called the Great Compromise. It was suggested by, well, let's get to this. It's also called the Connecticut Plan. The Connecticut Plan. Roger Sherman was one who suggested it, but Sherman is named to it, but the big thing is it would take Madison's blueprint. So Madison would have his idea of the Virginia plan would be the blueprint. But it will make some changes. The big thing was they wanted to make sure the states still had a little bit of power. The states lost a lot in the Virginia plan. So they made changes from the Virginia plan. The basic element is first, we have a bicameral legislature. Bicameral, just like the Virginia plan, but there's a big difference. There will be an upper house and a lower house. We'll call the upper house the Senate. The lower house, the House of Representatives. And it's important, those terms. The upper house was going to check the power of the lower house. So the lower house won't be so radical. They must pass bills that the upper house, which will be by design, and if you go there today, there is this feeling. It's much more formal. It's much more rule-oriented. It has this more elite. It's just a different attitude than the House. Now, the Senate, 2 per state. So it's a little bit like the New Jersey plan. Every state has 2. So how many senators are there today? 100. What if there's a tie? The only constitutional power that the vice president has is to break ties in the Senate. Other than that, they sit and wait for the president to die. They have no other power except for breaking ties in the Senate. So, 2 per state. How long is the term of a senator? 2 years. 6 years. 6 years. 6. And here's the big change from the Virginia plan. From the Virginia plan. It's not going to be the lower house. The Senate will be chosen by state assemblies. And so the states got a little bit more power. And so, for example, when Montana became a state, for the first 24 years that Montana was a state, the state Senate simply picked the 2 senators. Every 2 years, a third of the senators come up for re-election. In 1913, the Constitution was amended, the 17th Amendment, and now it's the voters in the state. But up till then, it was a state assembly. Remember what I told you? Barriers between the people and the government. And so it has to be filtered, so to speak, from the voters to the assembly, then to the Senate. The House of Representatives, it's based on population. The greater your population, the more members of the House. And originally, 50,000, for every 50,000 citizens, adult citizens, you got or 50,000 citizens, you got a member of the House. And then in the 1880s, the realization hit that they needed a bigger house or cut it off. And so they just arbitrarily cut it off. So today, there's 435 members of the House. Constitutionally, it's required that every 10 years, the US does a census. And this is the most important reason why. So they can figure out the population to apportion the House. And since there's only 435 members of the House, that means that it's divvied up every 10 years. So when I was a kid, Montana had 2 members of the House. Now we have 1, because our population is so small. California is 53. We have a much bigger population. Obviously, then that's how it works. Montana's 1 seat, it's huge. We're the biggest legislative district. So it's not big enough to have 2, but it's bigger than all the other single ones. Every 2 years. So every 2 years, there's an election. And these are chosen by the voters. And remember, most states had property requirements, and so it's the elite of the states who choose the elite here. Elite choose the elite of the assembly, who choose the elite of the elite. So that's how it works. It's the only one that's connected to the people, and so the assumption was this lower house would be turbulent, changing, radical, emotional was a term they used a lot, and the Senate would be stable. Very solid. So that's it. And they must agree. And so this checks this. What of the executive? Well, the executive, Madison wanted it chosen by the Senate, but a compromise was needed. So the executive, first off, how long is a term for the executive? Who it was dubbed the president. 4 years. How many terms? Unlimited. It would not be until 47 that they would amend the Constitution to limit to 2. George Washington only served 2 terms. And that became, in a way, the precedent, and that's about as much as someone could take in that job, who was elected for 4 terms. You know? No, Lincoln was elected for 2 and then was assassinated. Literally, no. Franklin Roosevelt was elected for 4 terms. And it'd be right after his, for various reasons, kind of agreed to by both parties, he was a Democrat, that maybe that's too much power in the hands of one person. He didn't really want to run for 3rd. He felt he had to. World War II was just beginning. And who chooses the president? That was Madison's original idea, but no. Same people choose the president today as chosen then.
Oh, Electoral College.
Exactly, the Electoral College. The Electoral College picks it. The Electoral College is made up of electors chosen by the state assemblies. It's chosen by state assemblies too. So that was a way to appease the states. Now, state assemblies decide how the electors are chosen. Before we get to that, how many electors does each state have? How many does Montana have?
Or is it based on population?
Kind of. 4, 3. How many senators does Montana have? 2. How many members of the House? 1. 3 electors. You add up the number of senators to the number of members of the House, and that is your number of electors. Think about it. Montana has no population. Literally, for this massive state, we have nothing. Yet we still get 2 senators. That's a lot of senators per person. We still get 3 electors. That's a lot of electors per person. Montana is more represented when it comes to voting for president and in the Senate than California. Because California might have 55 electors, but it's spread out over a lot more voters. Montana is overrepresented. So they knew it when they did it. The small states will have a slight advantage, especially in the Senate. The Senate, small state senators dominated. Really dominated. So the senators from Montana have a lot more power than our one member of the House, who is basically a backbencher and can do nothing. He has to be in it for a long time to have any power. Who's our member of the House? Now, some of you are laughing and you don't know it. You're almost at the time. In fact, let me rephrase that. You're at the time that you should know it. And if you don't know it, you should be embarrassed. I'm not giving you a bad time. I'm telling you the truth. That is a truism. You're at the time now. So then in 2 weeks, you should really be embarrassed if you didn't know it. That's like, God, I'm stupid. And you're not stupid, so you know this. Now, the reason why this is the time, because you're now entering the time of your life that you'll be the smartest you'll ever be. So it's time. You got it for about 3 years. It's true. If you haven't developed those thinking skills and knowledge before then, who's a member of the House? They just had the election. He's from Whitefish. He's a Republican. Ryan Zinke. Who's our members of the Senate? Tester, what party? Tester's a Democrat. Who's a Republican? Just was elected. This is the problem. You can't Google this stuff. If someone asks you a question, you gotta know it. Steve Daines, Bill.
I don't have TV.
So that was now in the past. And now it's time to get to know this. It really is. It's time. And you're more, all of you are very intelligent, even though you're learning 90s. It's called an oligopoly. And by the way, Zach, what kind of shoes are you wearing? You're supporting the monopoly too. Great. David's here.
What are we gonna do? I guess the party's over.
The party is over, people. The times are looking good. I was once happy.
I'm not practiced.
No, I'm just David's show. If you need to staple it, leave a quarter next for each staple you use, and you can use that. 50 cents for you, buddy. And we should make this, not only should I charge you a quarter per staple, I have to say that it's incomplete unless it's stapled.
something like who we interviewed on it.
That would be awesome.
I did not put.
That
my name.
probably, yeah. Put down who you interviewed him. And jot, I think you write it down. And how did you find it? Just jot it down real fast.
Do you want like their name or like, I just put my grandfather.
That's okay.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, I was gonna say how you found them, but I think I can figure out how you found your grandfather.
Yeah.
I can put 2 and 2 together. Please jot down, and I forgot to say that. If you have to write it down, even if you type it, just write it down, who it was and how you found them. But let's get out your paper. Adam, where you been? Sick, you look healthy as a horse right now. What are you talking about? Oh, God. My day. He licked himself in the ear. Huh? You're in who? Oh, you're in who today? Oh. Okay, so get it to me tomorrow. Just remind me, jot it down so I know. You told me about it, I interviewed him today. I won't be late. Make sure you put down who you interviewed. I kind of forgot to say that. Hey, you might want your name too. If you need to staple it, here's the stapler.
Okay, so. Okay, just like 1 second. Let me get my interview out.
Let's go, people. We're burning daylight. I got some homework for you.
Okay.
See you tomorrow. Wait!
You still have to do math?
Yeah, okay. This is what your assignment is.
This is a history class. I don't appreciate
History
this.
of math, which, by the way, was a good class. That's really interesting. The problem is, we didn't do math, which is basic. That blows your mind.
This is like fifth grade math.
I think you can handle it.
I feel like I've worked on all of them. I taught the more of our hours of child in your graduate class.
See, what does it say?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So for math class that we were talking about, it's different.
All right, take out your interviews. Take them out. Let's get, and remember what I told you. We're just going to go right down the line and do a quick little presentation, 5 or so minutes, each person, talk a little bit about what you learned, show the drawings you made of the interview, and then go from there. Yes, yeah.
Can I go today? So
Yes, yeah. Not everyone, we're not going to use that. It's like your reaction. Oh. All right. So everyone take it out, and like I said, you had that plan, so I'm collecting it now. Turn it up.
Yeah.
You told me you get home.
Do you notice when
Your name. You going first.
Do you notice when I'm first?
Yeah, why not? No, don't watch it. It's done. It might not be worth it. You gotta go too. Can I get everybody? All right. All right. here's the deal. And so Gail's gonna go first, and I'm just gonna go through, and then Garrett's gonna be on too. And then I'll just kind of go in line, and people will finish it probably tomorrow. And quick story, quick information that you learned. If you, then if anybody has any questions to answer, I'll probably have a question or two. And here's the deal. Now, of course, it is always fun to get in front of people and talk. Relax. You damn well better be polite. All right. Okay. I know you will, but I just want to emphasize it. Do you want the mouse? What? You want the mouse?
No, I'm good.
Huh?
I'm good.
Give me 1 second to get ready, because I put your grade on your paper. Why did I roll it up? That was everyone glare. I am ready.
All right. So I interviewed my grandpa, my mom's dad, Bill Salid. He served in the Vietnam War in '68 to '69. He served in Da Nang. He was a Marine. And then like he didn't want to talk too much about like the combat and stuff because he didn't have super good memories, but he did have one. He did have a couple memories since he served in Da Nang. They were kind of like in the downtown area, and some of the younger GIs would try and go to these like whorehouses, but sometimes they'd hide Viet Cong in the walls. Like they'd have like double walls and they'd hide in between, then jump out at the American soldiers. So they ended up taking German Shepherds into the houses and stuff like that. And then they caught one Viet Cong and they were taking him back to back to the camp in the Jeep, and he got out, or he jumped up and stabbed. My grandpa was driving and he stabbed his friend that was in the passenger seat and then jumped out, and so his friend got stabbed 4 times by the Viet Cong guy, and then they were able to capture him and send him back to America to be questioned. And then he also served during the Tet Offensive, and he said in Da Nang what they did for 2 days during the offensive was they went on rooftops with these, I think they were LARs, like little bazookas, and they would just fire at like Viet Cong that they saw for 2 days on roofs. Yeah, it was a good interview.
I entertained, yeah, so I entertained it. Did you ask me any of those other questions? I asked about anything about what like McNamara thought, or those things about war. You didn't ask him, or you?
No, I asked him about like when he got back
Mm-hmm.
from
Yeah,
the war.
that's what I do want to find out. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked him if he had any problems with like anti-war protesters, and he said he didn't, but it was really weird because he just got off the plane and there was no one there. It just felt like he was getting back from vacation or something, and he just went home. So he said it was really like surreal when he got home. It was kind of hard to get back in the swing of things.
Where was he from?
Idaho.
How old is he now?
66.
Oh, no, that's that is the thing that is the worst part about it. Yeah, that's the real thing. It's like they got home and no one wanted to admit it. That's the saddest part.
Was he drafted or enlisted?
He volunteered.
And was he in combat, or was he an infantryman, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? That sounds like a good interview. Nice job. You're up.
I'm thinking something.
Huh? Oh yeah, of course. You can't look at it, but you can take it. Give me 1 second. I gotta find your paper.
You should just turn it around so you won't even be like
Oh,
pressure.
no, but he actually
I started tired going around.
I know.
Then you can look at the Declaration of Independence.
All right, I'm ready. Go.
I interviewed my great uncle, my grandpa's brother, and he was drafted, but he also took an extra year too, so he could learn how to do like electrical stuff, And so he
That's
served.
exactly what you wrote.
So he served from 1969 to 1971, and so like it didn't matter that he was doing all the electrical stuff. He still had to go on guard duty